All right, so we'll just jump into to best movies, right? But before I forget, as I normally do, I just want to just do quickly guilty pleasure movies, right? So no, they're not critically great or whatever, but I still enjoy them for what they were. I saw the merit. I had fun with these, right? I'm sure that a lot of people probably forgot came out this year, but it's also from Warner Brothers, Godzilla vs Kong. I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
what we want about the premise, just being dumb. I just like how just balls in the wall it was, and just how over the top and grandiose it all was, and it actually delivered on its spectacle, right? Also, Malignant. I know a
Right.
lot of
Okay.
people are just like, well, I don't get this, or this is
I know a lot of
generic,
people that hate this,
stupid, and
but yeah.
this villain makes no sense, or monster makes no sense. I thought it to be really like it just caught me completely by surprise though, and I was just loving all these calls that they were making. I mean, yes, I might watch it again and be like, all right, this will work, that will work, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's actually my favorite horror film I've seen this year, right? And last thing, last though, also from Warner Brothers, but this is direct to video. Mortal Kombat Legends: Battle of the Realms,
Right.
which is a much better Mortal Kombat Annihilation than Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and a much better Mortal Kombat movie than this year's Mortal Kombat movie. So think
Yep.
about that, right? So honorable mentions as far as best movies go. No Sun Move. Sorry, Ricardo. I know this
Right.
is one of your favorites, but I,
Yep.
I I enjoyed it too. I enjoyed it too, just not as much as you, but I enjoyed it.
Right.
George A. Romero's The Amusement Park. This was a show
Right.
that the more you think about it, the more it just really resonates, creeps you out as well too. And just the mere fact that he just made this because, hey, I just lowered funds. I just doing this to make a buck, right? And it just was almost forgotten, and then well, thankfully it was restored in 4K, and we could see it now. Yeah, brilliant, right? Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Right.
Easily the best live action MCU film we've gotten this year. Sorry, Tracy. Agree to disagree. King Richard.
Right.
Great story, great performance by Will Smith. I do see him being nominated for an Oscar. I don't think he'll win, but I would be happy if he gets nominated at least, right? Malcolm and Marie, great film with
Right.
Zendaya and John David Washington as well too. We just perfect. Sorry, just brilliant film. Basically with two characters. So it works there. Wrath of Man. This is Guy Ritchie and
Right.
Jason Statham team up again. I know you weren't a big fan of it as well, but
Yeah.
just the mere
I don't
fact
love
that
it, but I don't love it, but I didn't hate it either.
yeah, just the mere fact that it was a remake of a movie, I was like, okay, okay, and just how it was executed was brilliant. But I'm gonna add just two documentaries to this list here. Tina, this is a HBO Max documentary about
Right.
Tina Turner, fantastic. And Netflix's MLK FBI, just a really
Right.
brilliant
Right.
film about Martin Luther King and how it uses archival footage and audio just to tell the story was fantastic, right? So using that now to jump into number 20, I have to give it to Judas and the Black Messiah.
Okay.
This
Wow.
is easily one of the most tense biopics I've seen like in a long while though. Just this story, with Fred Hampton and well basically the Judas in his group basically, right? We played brilliantly by Lakeith Stanfield. It's kind of weird that both were nominated for Best Actor, but I mean, thankfully Daniel Kaluuya won that. I mean, to me, Lakeith was the supporting actor, but some people think that Daniel was the supporting actor.
I
I
thought
don't know,
Daniel was a
whatever.
supporting actor. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. They were both supporting actor, right?
Okay. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and they got nominated for the same thing, right? Or whatever, right? But yeah, I felt that Daniel should have been best actor, but whatever, right? Number 19, a show that I hope you guys checked out during the weekend, Encanto. Yes, man.
Okay.
This was just, just a delight from start to end, though. Just, vibrant and colorful and just, lots of likable characters, just a lot of great songs. And before I forget, I was able to watch this at home, so I had the subs on and just see just understanding what's being sung now and hearing these songs again. And like, yeah, these songs slap. From
Oh
Surface
yeah.
Pressure to, We Don't Talk About Bruno, which I know is an instant classic, you know what I mean? So, yeah, totally enjoyed Encanto. Number 18, Ricardo will get mad at me for this, but I actually saw this Boxing Day, and I had to put this on my list for sure. Paul Verhoeven's Benedetta Way.
Okay.
Oh, I want to
You,
see
you,
that.
you were right. You were right.
Oh.
The show is great. The show is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but because I got into it too late, I couldn't put this as a top 10, right?
Right.
But yeah, what I really dug about this show is that Paul could have easily, right? He could have easily just let this thing be this sleazy exploitation film. But I was like, no, 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 no. You're getting that, yeah, but it's not about that, right? It's a much deeper story about religion and politics and the goddamn patriarchy, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit. But
Right.
yeah, boy, where the story went and just the performances. I didn't expect to see the Merovingian in this movie. I was like, yeah, you in this, and I hate you just as much as
Right, yeah. All right, yeah, he was in this, right? Yeah, I forget. He was the right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just so provocative, dude. That's the key word, just so provocative, right?
Yeah.
And no, it did rub me off the wrong way. I know some diehard Christians would be like, no, this is blasphemous and blah. I kind of look at it like, no, I get where you're coming from. I get what the show is trying to say there, you know what I mean? But I thought it was great, though. Definitely check it out. Number 17, another show that I got into pretty late, The French Dispatch.
Okay.
You're right, Ricardo. This is Wes Anderson being Wes Anderson. Oh my God, it
It's
is
most
Wes Anderson all up in your face, to
Yeah,
the
boy.
point that you almost kind of forget what the story is about or what's going on. But this is one for sure I do want to watch over again because there's a lot of,
Right.
storytelling, like great storytelling in it as well too. But you can just kind of find yourself overwhelmed by the Wes Andersonness of it all. But
Yep.
my God, Wes Anderson outdid himself here, boy. You know what I mean? He outdid himself. If this movie doesn't get an Oscar nom, boy, then why, right? Number 16, Oscar winner for this year, Best Picture, Nomadland, right? I
Okay.
mean, yes, it's a 2020 film, but we got this theatrically and streaming in 2021. It won the Academy Award. Chloe Zhao deserved it. Frances McDormand deserved it. You know what I mean? Best Picture, all that kind of stuff, though. And it's just how it just touches on, well, not everybody, like people still catching the royals, as we see in Trinidad, in the United States, right? And this show just kind of beautifully, portrays that, right? Number 15, One Night in Miami. This is one of
Right.
the first films that I covered this year that I gave a lot of praise for.
I
To.
rate that. Did I rate that as last year? I didn't. This was
No,
on my
I
list last year.
think you did. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I know we talked about it at the beginning of this year.
You're right.
And I am so glad that this movie has made it to the Criterion Collection.
No
Actually,
problem.
it's out right now in the Criterion Collection. You can buy this on Blu-ray, or if you're lucky, like like CC, you bastard, you could actually pull it up on the Criterion channel and watch it. God damn it! But yeah, shout out to Regina King, though. You killed it with this movie, man. Number 14, a show that I got into late, but shame on me. Passing, a great
Right. Wow.
TV feature from Rebecca Hall. Great performances from both Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson. Beautifully shot in black and white, though, and just the story that it told, though, just poignant, but just very heartfelt and resonant, right? Number 13, a show that I know you really adore, Tracy, Tick Tick Boom. This was one that I got into fairly late too, but all I'll say is that Andrew Garfield can sing. OMG. And I'm rooted for him to get an Oscar nom for this performance alone, though, because he was fantastic in this. His songs were great. Lin-Manuel Miranda, came through with a solid debut feature here, and I just can't wait to see, him do more, films of this nature. But yeah, Andrew Garfield, give this man an Oscar, please, or Oscar nom. Number 12, also a show that deserves Oscar noms, even though it bombed at the box office, The Last Duel. Yes, boy. No other show got me pissed off than this movie, but in a good way, though, because it's just like, yeah, boy, the patriarchy, boy. Fuck the patriarchy, boy. My God. You find yourself hating, like, I was hating on Adam Driver. I was hating on Ben Affleck. And then Matt Damon do a thing, boy. I was like, nah, boy, I hate you too. But, but it was still fantastic in this movie, no lie. And I was blown away that both Ben and Matt wrote this script. Like, what?
Yes.
What? You know what I mean? But, as I said in my review, I could tell why it bombed because, it's Ridley Scott and people kind of expecting, like medieval films have a lot of war and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we do get a brutal duel, i.e. in the title, right? But just the reasoning behind it, though, is just so... Just like, wow, like this was really how times were, boy. Wow. And, shout out to Jodie Comer as well, too. She came through with a fantastic performance as well. But yeah, this was one that, a lot of people slept on. But yeah, people should definitely check it out because it's great, right? And last but not least, I'm going to give this a tie here. Netflix's Rurouni Kenshin, the final and the beginning. As a fan and as a defender of, these live-action Rurouni Kenshin films, I thought that he ended off the series quite brilliantly, both with the final and the beginning. Fans should be familiar with the events of the beginning because this was adapted to an OVA that would be Summer X, Trust and Betrayal. But how they remade it here in live action was just brilliant in my opinion, and the final was just like this near perfect way of just ending off this series as well too. Just top notch production, what I mean, direction, action, fight choreography as well too. And yeah, I mean, if you are a fan of the Rurouni Kenshin series, then you will absolutely love these two films, man. So, CC, if you could just run through your top 20 to 11. I know, well, just in general, I know that they are film discoveries, so they're not films from this year, but those are films that you just sought out, you know what I mean? Because I know you're still, studying film and whatnot. So if you just mind, just run through quickly your top 20 to 11.
Oh yes. Now, as I said, I think I saw over 500 films this year, when according to Letterboxd anyway, and so I tried to keep this list to 10 out of 10s, like the most like the ones that were like, oh my god, I didn't know movies could do this type movies. Quick honorable mentions for some 9 out of 10s that came out this year. Happier Than Ever, Billie Eilish's concert film. I really enjoyed that.
Oh, I need to see that.
Really good. I enjoyed Shang-Chi. Really loved Leos Carax's Annette. Adam Driver has been having a great time at the box office.
I heard that movie was great. Yeah.
And then also, of course, my favorite Marvel movie of the year, Chloe Zhao's Eternals.
Hi.
So yeah, my honorable but then like getting into the list proper, top 20, 10 out of 10 films I have seen this year, and I'm going chronologically, so starting with the oldest on the list and then moving into the most recent, 20 to 16. So 1947's Black Narcissus, directed by Powell.
Oh, I know this. I've seen it. Yeah. I love it, yeah.
So this was the year I finally got to deep dive into Powell and Pressburger, and of all their films I've seen so far, Black Narcissus is amazing. This Technicolor, gothic, anti-colonial horror film with all these psychological... it's a movie that looks so pretty, but the stuff that goes on in it is so disturbing and so uncanny and so like upsetting, and it's aged like an absolute fine wine. Speaking of Technicolor, moving up to 1954, Nicholas Ray's bizarre western Johnny Guitar. Nicholas Ray was another.
I have not seen that. I know about it, but I have not seen it.
Nicholas Ray was another filmmaker I finally got to get into this year, and I think I've watched all the classics from him. Like I love Bigger Than Life, I love They Live by Night, but Johnny Guitar is such. It's one of my favorite westerns to show people who think westerns are all the same, because it breaks so many of the stereotypes and the rules, and it becomes this formally expressive, bizarre movie. Like you have characters named Venice and Turkey, and Johnny Guitar is an actual character's name. There's a scene where a character is talking about the benefits of coffee and cigarettes, like it's a modern 50s movie, but no, it's a Western period piece. The 3-strip Technicolor photography is not something you expect in a Western, especially with everyone's costumes being so spectacular. Joan Crawford is great in it. It's just such a delightful, weird, idiosyncratic film. Moving from idiosyncratic to something a little more classy, sophisticated, from 1963, Luchino Visconti's The Leopard. And I am talking about the full Italian cut, so the entire, I think 3+ hours. This elegant portrait of the death of the Italian aristocracy. I was joking on Facebook the other day that I decided this year to watch more Italian films, and I ended up kind of getting a crash course on Italian history from the unification of Italy up to the Second World War, because so many filmmakers love talking about that particular period. So, but of all of them, The Leopard is still one of the best I saw. Beautifully shot, beautifully staged. There's this quiet melancholy, like it has all the trappings of a classy period piece, but there's a quiet undercurrent of melancholy to it, as you feel like this world is slowly slipping away. And Burt Lancaster, and this is not the last time Burt Lancaster shows up on this list, Burt Lancaster is in one of the many movies in which he plays an aging character who's kind of accepting that his time is passing and he will move, and it is time for him to let go and move on. Speaking of going back to weird, 1960, also from 1963, but from another European country, France. This is Georges Franju's Judex, which is a bizarre. It's because Georges Franju is one of the French New Wavers. Most people know him for like Eyes Without a Face, but here he is making a love letter to like pulpy serials like The Shadow, but except this one particular one of this character called Judex. And so what you end up with is a kind of proto-superhero movie devised by a French New Wave filmmaker and a delightful surrealist. It's weird. The plot, like, there are, like, it's an adaptation of a serial that was like hours and hours and hours long, but it collapses it into an hour and a half. And the plot, it has a lot of hype. It's a hyper narrative. So like there's new plot points and new twists and new turns happening all the time. It's a delightful mystery, and every time you've settled in comfortably with it, some new weird thing happens. Judex, 1963. Staying in the 60s, 1967, John Huston's Reflections in a Golden Eye, starring Marlon Brando and Elizabeth Taylor. This was the year I got my wisdom teeth removed, and so I ended up having a whole weekend where I was at home miserable. But thankfully, the Criterion Channel decided that was a good time to post their John Huston collection. So I was at home dealing with painkillers and not having wisdom teeth anymore. But thankfully, I got to binge John Huston's filmography as a director. And there were a lot of great movies. John Huston was a genius. But Reflections in a Golden Eye is also weird. Like, it's a movie from 1967 with two of the, like, actors we associate with, like, classical Hollywood. But it's about fetishes and sexual repression and suppressed homosexuality, and there's the sexual politics of it are weird, and like it's basically it's a movie about what repression does to your mental state. And there are some like there's a scene where we see a character riding in circles naked on a horse. There's a scene where Elizabeth Taylor whips Marlon Brando's character across the face with a riding crop. Like, this movie is out of control. And the fact that there is apparently an alternate version where the entire film is tinted with this, like, golden coloring to it. That was Huston's preferred version. I only saw the original in color, but now I need to track down a copy so I can watch the gold-tinted version because, like, I need to see it that way because this was it's one of the strangest, like, classic films I'd ever seen. Moving on to one of my favorite categories of weird movie, the kind of movie that I definitely discovered, and it's delightful to me, but I understand why not only was it not talked about or popular at the time, but no one has resurrected it. Like, this is a movie I watched for free with ads on IMDb TV. Like, this is a movie you can barely get the DVD of it because, like, no one involved cares, but I find it absolutely delightful. It's 1969, director Sidney Pollack's Castle Keep with Peter Falk and, again, Burt Lancaster. The plot follows a group of American soldiers who their commander, played by once again by Burt Lancaster as Major Falconer, decides that it is their responsibility to seize, control, and safeguard a Belgian castle from the Nazis. And what's weird, here's the thing about this movie and why it turned off so many people, but why I love it. It can't quite decide what it wants to be. It's kind like you read the premise or you look at the posters, you're like, oh, it's The Dirty Dozen or Kelly's Heroes. But no, it's too slow for that. It's too weird. It's too idiosyncratic. The editing is straight up French New Wave. The music choices are straight up French New Wave. Peter Falk plays one of the soldiers. There's a whole bit where he just leaves the rest of his unit to go into town and take up career as a baker, and they have to, like, later in the film coax him to come back with the others in their final fight against the Nazis. it's the kind of movie where like a bombshell blows up one of the castle statues and it actually bleeds. It's a weird movie that's like kind of stuck between being a 60s war film and an experimental like kind of Hollywood or French New Wave type movie, and it can't quite decide what it wants to be. So it's a movie that pleases neither the artsy people or the like war film fanatics, but it delights me so much. I know we dropped reference earlier to The Devils when talking about Space Jam, and speaking of The Devils, this was the year that I got to watch. I finally deep dived into the filmography of Ken Russell, who is one of my favorite directors. He's a genius. I finally watched The Devils, and in answer to your question, there is a Blu-ray of The Devils that has been released by the BFI. That is
that one.
It's the closest we have to an uncut version, especially since the Warner Brothers policy is never to release an uncut version, because even now they're still too offended by it. And even after watching the closest we got to an uncut version, I'm tripping out. But it is not actually The Devils, but it is my favorite of the Ken Russell movies I saw this year that kind of got me started, is from 1971, one of his earliest, The Music Lovers.
Why am I not surprised?
Where Richard Chamberlain plays Tchaikovsky, and he decides that the best way to deal with his repressed homosexuality is to like get straight married, and hopefully that will fix it. But he marries an obsessed fan, and it devolves into this mutually toxic, and not just toxic, but destructive relationship that ends up ruining both his attempts at creating music, both of their lives, but anyone who happens to be involved in their sphere. It's a fascinating film because it's kind of a hybrid between Ken Russell's later most, visually expressive style and like earlier kind of more like, it starts out and you think, oh, okay, this is like a prestigious period piece. It's something a little more sophisticated and what have you. But then as it goes on, you're like, no, this is weird. This is a weird movie, and like it gets stranger and stranger as it goes on, and like it has these bursts of like it's a movie. It feels like, the best way I could describe it is it feels like a prestige period piece that occasionally gets interrupted with sequences that remind you of The Devils. And it flip-flops between those two so elegantly. And this was the movie that I watched and I was like, I need to watch more Ken Russell immediately. So I have this movie to thank for all the other Ken Russell films I watched this year. So there's that. Staying in 1971, but going a lot darker and a lot more gritty and realistic, we have James Cavell's 1971 film, The Last Valley, with Michael Caine and Omar Sharif, where Omar Sharif is a wandering holy man and Michael Caine is the captain of a band of war-weary mercenaries during, I believe, the 30 Years' War in Germany, who find this little valley that is cut off from the rest of the war, and so it's kind of this little haven where they can like leave all of the cares and worries of, especially since like there's winter coming on, so they need a place to shelter and there's a plague ravaging the land, but this valley is untouched by any of that. And so they take shelter in this valley, but it becomes this clash because you have these violent mercenaries and the deeply religious inhabitants of the valley. Omar Sharif's character is attempting to keep everything civil. Michael Caine is one of his coldest bad guys you will ever see him in this, especially since like there are moments where you get the idea that he's an actually sympathetic character who just wants the best for his men, but he's so deeply disillusioned by this war and everything he's been through. It's a very simple premise. It's played to its best towards the end as things unravel, and for lack of a better word, the real world does invade their valley. As things are trying to smooth over between them and the natives, the real world invades the valley and their little haven is destroyed. And like a movie that was already dark manages to get darker and darker, and by the end of the movie there's imagery that's borderline apocalyptic. The Last Valley, 1971, and then my last two of the 20 to 16 range. Going back to as much as I loved Reflections in a Golden Eye, that was not my favorite John Huston film that I watched. That goes to 1972's Fat City, which I adore. Like it's a movie that I think actually I had kind of heard of because I saw a trailer for it. I'm subscribed to a vintage movie trailer account on YouTube, and so I get some recommendations that way. But Spike Lee also mentioned it as his films that anyone who wants to get into movies needs to watch.
Okay.
It's a boxing film, but it's not a Rocky type. It's about this. You have this washed up boxer who hasn't had glory days in years, played by Stacy Keach, and this young up and coming promising boxer played by a young Jeff Bridges. And the film kind of shows their parallel, like, you know, the old boxer's attempts to get his glory back, while the Jeff Bridges boxer is like slowly but surely, like, you know, moving up through the ranks and trying to achieve great things. Like Last Valley, it's a lot more dark, it's a lot more realistic. There's a lot of very quiet sequences. It's a slow burner for a movie that's only an hour and a half. It's quite the slow burner. There's a lot of Susan Tyrell is in this film, and she plays kind of a love interest. She's an alcoholic who gets in kind of a romance with Stacy Keach's character. And it's kind of, again, something like The Music Lovers. It's kind of this more mutually destructive situation than not, and like the two of them bring each other down. There are a lot of difficult scenes, and it kind of the movie poses the question about Stacy Keach's boxer. Like, is this guy, like, has he had a rough time in his life, or is he self-sabotaging at this point? And then finally, going back to more formally express, having done two pretty gritty, realistic films, let's dip to a movie that completely ignores realism, but still manages to hit you in the absolute gut. From 1979, this is Bob Fosse's All That Jazz.
Oh, I've seen that a long time ago, though. I need to recap it.
I adore this. Bob Fosse was another filmmaker. I intentionally decided to watch more of his stuff this year.
Yeah, I think they had a biopic on him this year.
Yeah,
right.
There was a show recently, Fosse
right.
which was, I think, on
right.
Hulu. But I decided to watch his films, and so I watched Lenny, which I'm brilliant. I watched Cabaret, brilliant. But All That Jazz is fascinating because it's a movie that takes such a frank, brutal portrait. Like, I've never seen an artist do a self-portrait like this that is so unflattering, and then expresses it so stylistically interesting. Like, it's like doing it as like a musical, especially as it gets more like a musical as the film goes on. And like, Bob Fosse has one of the best commands of editing I've ever seen in any filmmaker. Like, the editors he worked with on his films are like, there's a precision to the editing in a Bob Fosse movie that reminds me of the precision to Bob Fosse choreography. And seeing that in All That Jazz is phenomenal. I mean, it's not an uplifting, happy movie. And especially like that last song sequence and the way it ends, it does leave you kind of sitting there thinking about life a little bit, but it's so worth the ride. And it's such a brilliant example of how, no, just because you're tackling serious subjects does not mean you have to do like a gritty, realistic style. Like, you can do difficult subjects with like expressive theatrical flair and still have it have a serious dramatic emotional impact, and Fosse does a brilliant job with that in All That Jazz. So yeah, that was that is the first 10 of my top 20 films that I saw this year. Then the next 5 are the 80s into the 90s, and then my top 10 and my top 5 will be top 5 films that I saw this year. So yes.
All right. Ricardo, top 20 to 11.
Oh, yeah, right. So just a bunch of mentions, but nothing in my top 10. Yeah, that's top 20. All right, so stuff to mention. All right. Tick, Tick, Boom. Pretty good.
All right. You saw it. Nice.
Yeah. Riders of Justice. This is pretty good.
I wanted to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. The Humans. Pretty good. I enjoyed that.
Oh, yeah. E24 release. Yeah.
Right. This was slightly controversial, but yeah, it didn't make my top 10, but I enjoyed it. Lamb. Right? Pretty damn good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We
The
talked about it.
Papa War movie, right?
Yeah,
A Quiet Place 2. Right? Enjoyed that.
right. Yeah.
Of course, Godzilla vs. Kong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's really controversial. I thought it would make the top 10, but didn't. Power of the Dog. But it's pretty good. But I didn't make it.
Okay.
Yeah, didn't make it, but it's still good. I enjoyed it, but I didn't. As I said, I would have loved it more if I didn't predict what was going to happen. Like I kind of called it. I was like, oh yeah, right, okay.
Good.
This one is a weird one. It's lower on the list than more, but Voir. This was this fella did a bunch of series of films about the history of film in the country.
But that
what
would
call
count as TV though.
Oh, you find counts as TV? I thought it felt like I thought it was more a movie than anything. Anyway.
Okay, well, that is a to watch list, sir, for sure.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Some documentaries. Listening to Kenny G. This was pretty damn cool. I had a lot of fun with this one.
Yeah, you see that and the DMX one that HBO Max put out.
Yeah.
I wanted to see those.
Roadrunner, Anthony Bourdain's documentary. Pretty sad.
Still have yet to see that, yeah.
Julia. This was a documentary on the famous cook. Yeah. The Val Kilmer documentary, I forget the name. But
yes, Val. Yeah, that should have been in my honorable mention, but I forgot it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it. So, last one. This barely made it, but it's really close. But I remember I liked it a lot. Blue Bayou.
Oh yes. This was one that you were planning to put on your list, your top list. Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna jump into 10 to 1, right? So Ricardo, if you don't mind, just run through your 10 to 1.
Right. This one is the first person to make my worst list, but he also makes my best list of the year. Untitled Dave Chappelle documentary.
Okay.
Thought this was pretty good. Really somber, really well done. What you're trying to talk about and say. Yeah, it's a shame that the closer kind of bogged this down, right? But it by itself pretty damn good.
Right.
Mitchell's versus the Machines, right?
It's
really
on my list too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really love this.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, didn't expect to enjoy it as much as it was. Just really fun and well done. Really works. Green Knight, great. Yeah,
There we go.
Also on my list. Mm-hmm.
Yep, hard. I didn't appreciate it when I first saw it. Give it a next watch. Did the little bit of the background research. Couple of reviews. Yeah, it builds up for me. Pig, right?
So
Enjoyed it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Dug it. Really well done. 6, Judas and the Black Messiah. Really works.
Right. But that's high. Nice.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. This was real hard. Number 5, The Harder They Fall. I had a lot of fun with this one. It's
Nice.
Number 4, Dune.
Nice.
I didn't love this as much as other people, but yeah, I give props to the man. Man hit it out to it.
Yeah,
Number
Villeneuve,
3.
Man. Villeneuve.
Yeah, Villeneuve. I gotta give the man props. Number 3, The Last Duel. Really
you have it that high. All
that
right.
high, yeah. Again, he gave me Gucci. Gucci was some bullshit, but The Last Duel was really excellent. It really held it for me. So I dug the hell out of it. And then number 2, Benedetta.
Okay.
I thoroughly love this movie. Not since Mother. I've enjoyed a great religious trop stuff. This man nailed the conceit of further from church closer to God. Yeah, that man carried that to the next level. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then my number 1, I really enjoyed this story and script, and it really worked. Can't believe I'm saying it. I didn't think it would hold up so well for me. Well, my number 1, No Sad Move. I thoroughly.
I see you. Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed this film. I thought the script was great. It had me. It's one of the few films that actually kept my attention the entire time. Movies don't really do that nowadays. Sorry to say it now. Here's a really obnoxious thing I see on Twitter all the time. The person who's live tweeting the movie. See that fucking idiot? I hate that kind of person. But the thing is, I personally do that for myself. Like I'll just be like, talking shit on my own or doing. I don't live tweet it, but I'll be like doing a lot of things and get myself distracted. Especially when I spent even when I was in the theater, right, with stuff, I'll find myself super distracted. The only difference is I can't pause it, right? But like once I get a chance to pause stuff, I find myself pausing a lot of stuff this year. Almost everything I did that. But for this, nope. sat down, watched it, the entire time, didn't stop for a drink or pee or anything like that. I just thoroughly enjoyed the script and it made it work. Yeah, so that's just the entire. Yeah, that's my turn. Right.
So Tracy, take it away. Your 10 to 1. Just running through them quickly. Also, you could just mention honorable mentions, of course.
Right. Okay. So my honorable mention goes to. I have 3 of them here, but I'm gonna go with Gunpowder Milkshake, which was on Netflix. Like it's it's like a John Wick. It's that kind of stuff. It has my girl from Doctor Who, whose name escapes me right now. She played Amelia Bond.
Well, Karen Gillan.
Karen Gillan.
Yeah, we love Karen Gillan.
I'm like, I sat down and I watched it and I was like, yes, okay, cool. Gunpowder Milkshake. I can actually go back and watch that. In terms of the top 10, there's The French Dispatch, or the full extent of the name is The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. I mean, because Wes Anderson, so why not?
Yeah, why not?
I just love the westness of it. Oh my God.
Yes, the westness.
The westness of it. The French Dispatch, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which for me was like the most Vader movie that wasn't Vader. I mean, like his father is, because there's a thing with Marvel fathers that they are in one way or the other kind of like Darth Vader, whether it is Darth Vader evil, Darth Vader redemption, but he was like the most Vader. But I just loved it. I loved it, and I loved the interaction
it's a Disney thing
between him and Aquafina and stuff. So French Dispatch, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Dune. Dune was joy. Dune was joy. I did add Don't Look Up in it. For that line there in the trailer, it says, based on real events that hasn't happened yet. It's like, okay, I'm going to watch this. And I ended up loving it. So yeah. I have that.
No, keep it there. Despite what we said earlier on, I mean, if it's on the list, keep it there.
That stays there. That stays there. So Don't Look Up is there. And listen, I love you guys. Like, I love you guys. I respect you guys. But no. Cruella is a deliciously fashionable, wonderful, actual film. I love this movie. Love this movie.
Yeah, live by your rep. Keep it there.
Live your truth.
Oh my God. I just smile on my face right now. Anyhow, but yes. Okay, so Cruella. And then it comes down to like the top 4 of it there. I am going to add In the Heights. In the Heights for me, at the beginning of 2021, and we still couldn't get into cinemas, and thankfully HBO Max was doing their thing, and In the Heights came out, which is obviously it's based on the stage production of Lin-Manuel Miranda, and then it was turned into a movie, and he's not directing that. John M. Chu is directing that one, but it was just so good, and I have the soundtrack for it because you know me and soundtracks. This really was a good year for Lin-Manuel Miranda. So
it was.
It's joy. So I have In the Heights.
Before I forget, did you even get around to watching Hamilton? 2020's Hamilton, my favorite movie of last year.
I have it. I got this stuff and things like that, but I still haven't gotten around to like the full Hamilton. I will admit it.
All right. Well, make it a must to check it out like as soon as, because it's worth it.
I have 2 days before the year ends. I'm doing absolutely nothing for the most part, so I will take it in and do that. So yes, okay. So where was I? In the Heights. Warner Brothers did that. John M. Chu. Encanto. Oh my God!
I knew you'd love that movie. I knew you'd.
I mean, this is another one of those things where it's like I simply must have the soundtrack. There's 3 songs at the top, really and truly. There's obviously Bruno, which, like I was saying this morning on Twitter, Bruno has we don't talk about Bruno has that kind of fantastical element, but then you have the and then like Rumors and What Is It About and Who's Bruno, but the Under the Surface and Waiting on a Miracle. There's something about those 2 tracks that I legitimately love, and I just love seeing Stephanie. I'm using the word progress. Like, I mean, I've seen her in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and that was joy.
We love her, yeah.
We adore her there. And then I saw her in the Heights, and I was like, oh, okay, range, joy. And then I found out that she was going to be Mirabelle in Encanto, and I was like, yes. And then when I started to check out some of this stuff, like the singing voice of Abuela is actually Miss Olga, who was the Abuela in The Heights. So it's like you just these people. So I was really happy about that.
Nice.
So
and,
it's
by the way, Stephanie can sing well. Like, I was shocked, because when I heard it in The Heights, like, wait, that's really you, but then when I hear in Encanto, I'm like, wow, you have a gorgeous singing voice, man. My God. Especially that opening song, the Family Madrigal, that's been stuck in my head for like days,
Yeah. That is on my mobile, as in like the soundtrack of itself. It's on my mobile to link. And then my top 2 films, and one of them really aggravates me that Disney Plus did not bring it out for Christmas, because I thought that was going to be my Christmas gift to me, but I will deal with it in the new year. Eternals. I have it
there. Yeah.
Eternals is like the vision of it, the religion of it, the mythology of it, the openness of it. Like, I sat there. I remember when I saw the first trailer for it, and they were playing "Don't You Know It's the End of the World," and I looked at this thing and I saw it, and I said to myself, yes, I need this in my life. And then I saw it on the big screen, and I couldn't have been happier. And I just want to throw this out. Not every Marvel movie, or not every movie, needs to have to connect to some, oh my God, but it didn't connect to anything bigger. It just felt like a standalone movie. That was something. I was like, no, we can have a standalone movie.
That was one of my gripes, but I understand.
Stand alone.
I just like we can have a movie that just is there and does what it needs to do. And I loved Chloe Zhao was talking about her pitch. In fact, Kevin Feige as well was talking about the pitch that sold them, and it was a picture of a microscopic view of a grain of sand, and there was a piece of poetry that was with it. And I just yes, that just feels in line with everything that I have seen and read where Chloe Zhao is concerned. I loved it. I loved Eternals. I loved it. And then my number 1 film is, of course, Tick, Tick, Boom. I saw Tick, 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 Boom, and I have it here as Jonathan Larson, Lin-Manuel Miranda, because even though Lin-Manuel is directed it, I mean, this was Jonathan. Like, lyrics and the entire thing is Jonathan Larson. And it was really it was aggravating for me, because I love Rent. I absolutely love Rent, but I did not know about Tick, Tick, Boom. And I was like, how can you say I'm telling myself, how can you say you love Jonathan Larson? You didn't know. And I went back and go on YouTube and started watching the camera, the old VHS tapes that somebody would have taped of him actually doing Tick, Tick, Boom in the theater as like, this is gold. And so to see Andrew embody that, and full disclosure, I cannot go a Sunday without playing Sunday in the Blue Chromium Diner. I loved the feeling of it. I loved the messaging of it. 1390 has a close thing for me, because it's like, yes, we are all counting down our days here on this planet, trying to make sure that we actually accomplish something. I thought that entire cast was good. I love what Lin-Manuel Miranda was able to bring to it, because one could argue that Jonathan Larson pretty much teed it up. But even though he made this, having the wrong director might have just made this, but this for me went over. So those are my top 10, and of course my honorable mention being Gunpowder Milkshake.
All right. I will save mine for last, if you all don't mind. CC, if you could just run through your 10 to 1 quickly, and then I'll jump into mine just to close things off.
All right. So, first of all, this is my 10 to 6 of favorite films I saw this year. And these are the last ones that did not come out in 2021. From 1987, Walker. This movie
yes.
is amazing. Like, I love
real hard.
Like, I watched Alex Cox's Repo Man,
which I own on Blu-ray. Just
So
so you
good.
know.
Like,
Yeah.
this is phenomenal. And then but I feel like everyone talks about Repo Man, and no one says that he made other movies except for Sid and Nancy. And then someone recommended Walker, and I watched it, and I don't get this often, but I had one of those I didn't know movies could do that moments, because Walker goes so hard. It's a historical film that is also deliberately kind of making a parallel between a then contemporary event and classical history, and making it an explicit parallel. The performances are all unhinged. The music is out of control. The action, the violence are over. It's a phenomenal movie. It's another one of my westerns for people who don't like westerns, because it does kind of fall into a lot of the trappings, and the main character of Walker himself is kind of a western gunslinger adventurer type, but putting him in this, it becomes a very man who would be.
Listen, Ed Harris is absolutely perfect in this, sir.
He is
nailed. Yeah, perfect. Your boy Odo in this. Yeah.
Renee
Auberjonois. Yeah.
He's also brilliant.
He was hard in this too. Yeah.
He's hilarious, but he's brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, Walker, I saw this movie in the middle of the year, and I am still thinking about it. But also from 1987, completely different vibes, but another Italian filmmaker, Bernardo Bertolucci's The Last Emperor.
Still on my to-watch list.
So,
I suck, I know.
It is easily Bertolucci's best movie, and I also saw Novecento this year, which, by the way, that is a movie that earns its 5-hour runtime. But Last Emperor is by far, it is an absolute masterpiece. It is this tragic. It takes a figure that it takes the last emperor of China, a figure that's just surrounded in mystery, and makes him this deeply tragic, sympathetic character. This deeply unbalanced, maladjusted character, and makes him really sympathetic. And there are moments in this movie that brought me to tears even after watching it the second time. So no, Last Emperor, 1987, absolutely brilliant. From 1990. Barry Levinson's Avalon, the third film in his the third film in his Baltimore Quartet, and I love the rest of the Baltimore Quartet. Tin Man is really good. Diner is really good. I had seen Diner before, but this year I decided this would be the year I would finish the Baltimore Quartet, and so I watched Avalon and I watched Liberty Heights. Avalon is the best of the hands down of the. It's a brilliant multi-generational immigrant story. It shows the closeness of this Jewish American family and their network and them, surviving in Baltimore in the 60s, but it also starts to show the slow fragmentation of that way of life and that culture as this tight family unit slowly starts to unravel in bits and places, and it becomes this really poignant, sad look at a time gone by, and what happens to immigrant communities after they've been living in an alien culture for generations. There are so many beats in this that absolutely hit home and that got me very personally. And I not only do I own this, not only I need this movie, I have not got a copy yet, but I own a printed version of the screenplay. I love it that much.
Nice.
And then this next one I feel like is a lot more familiar to Trini's, sadly, because of America and the way and the kind of American illiteracy of Indian film. This is not as well known here, but it needs to be. So you all probably know this one. But 1995, Mani Ratnam's Bombay.
Yeah.
Finally saw this year because I was actually took a class on Indian cinema, partly as an excuse to watch Indian film again because I haven't in a long time. And I actually wrote a whole paper on the use of songs and musical numbers in the terrorism trilogy. And I like the other two. Roja is pretty good. A little muddy in places, but pretty good. Dil Se is really good. There's a couple things about it that don't quite sit right with me, but Dil Se is pretty good. But Bombay is a masterpiece. Bombay is a stone cold masterpiece. Especially as someone who myself is finds that navigating that difference and that culture clash between trying to create a life together when you're coming from two different religious backgrounds and you're coming from two different like world views, but like still having that like love for each other, and then eventually your children like is what binds you together. And then on top of that, while all of this religious violence is happening around you and all of this chaos is happening, and at a time when I feel like, especially in the States, is why I think I need more Americans to see this movie, and like globally as well, at a time when the religious lines are at some of their worst and some of their most strict, watching a movie that's just about this family navigating, bridging that religious divide while the rest of the world is in flames it becomes a very poignant thing to do. And of course, being Mani Ratnam, there's like a song in there that I'm not the biggest fan of, but all the other music sequences are flawless. And then number 6 from 1998, I don't even know how to give a proper introduction to this one, but this also got me right in my feels. Velvet Goldmine from Todd Haynes.
I've heard of that, and I know he has a movie that came out this year that we hear a little great things about. But
yeah,
time.
Todd Haynes is another one that I finally got to do a little more looking into. I've seen this, and I saw his Bob Dylan movie, which I'm still thinking about. I'm still mulling over and processing, but that one's like really good. But Velvet Goldmine as this love letter to identity and discovering yourself and glam rock. Like, I know a lot of people say that it's very obvious that this was a David Bowie biopic with the serial numbers filed off, but I do think that filing off the serial numbers allowed it to be a more broad, general love letter to glam rock than being a specific David Bowie biopic, and I think that is what works the film's advantage. It's so stylistically interesting, it's so expressive, and very genuine and heartfelt, and like I love Christian Bale in this movie, but I love all the performances, and it is spectacular. But we are now at, and bear in mind, it is not that I watched a lot of movies this year and hated them, but there are a lot of films that this year that came out that I just simply have not gotten around to. Like, I want to watch Mitchells and the Machines, but I haven't got around to it, and Harder They Fall, and a lot of others, Tick Tick Boom in particular. But like, of the films I was able to make time to go see, especially since I saw a lot of these in theaters, movies I made time for or was able to catch on streaming or whatever, or even in some cases had to like wait, like something like Pig and Nomadland, which I watched once they hit Hulu, and I love both those are 10 out of 10s, but not on my top 5. But these are top 5 favorite movies that came out in 2021. Number 5 is Dune.
Nice.
Dune is I've been a fan of the book for some time, and Dune is the perfect realization of the book. Like any place where it's not word by word loyal are places where the book could have, like, you needed to adapt it to the medium. And Villeneuve does the Star Wars trick of creating a world that honestly feels lived in and organic. Like, I feel like a big problem with a lot of with science fiction or fantasy is accidentally creating worlds that feel like sets. They don't feel lived in. They don't feel organic. They feel like sets. But with Dune, you get this organic sense that these are lived in worlds, and Villeneuve's ability to like capture all of the grandiosity and all of the like potency of the book is absolutely flawless. And I cannot, for the life of me, wait for the next. I cannot believe we have to wait till 2023 to get part 2. Number 4 is a comeback film. Honestly, for me, it's a comeback because this is from a director who hasn't made a film I liked like recently in a long time, but it's also a comeback vehicle for a couple screenwriters who made a movie I adore and then didn't do anything else for decades. But number 4 is The Last Duel. I love Ridley Scott as a director, and I love Good Will Hunting. Like, I love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon as writers. So the fact that we didn't get anything else from them for years while they went off and did their own stuff was like a little sad, because I think they balance each other out. Like, I've seen some of the stuff they've done individually, and it just doesn't do the same thing for me. But getting them back together to work on The Last Duel, and then even bringing on a collaborative writer to help them with the script, what was her name? Nicole Holofcener. Big shout out to her as well as the third writer they brought on to write this, because this is a movie where I need a printed copy of the screenplay. I absolutely need it. Because I am sitting here as a writer and amateur narratologist. It is fascinating to watch a movie where the story is told in the negative spaces. It's a movie where what is happening and what is it's all the different. I got so frustrated with people complaining this film was repetitive, because I'm like, that's the point. The repetition is supposed to encourage you to look for the differences between their stories. You are supposed to be, and the movie is very clear on that. And there's so much subtlety, and that goes back to the brilliant direction by Ridley Scott. There's so much subtlety in the differences, and once you pay attention to those differences and where the different stories vary and differ from each other, it really. It's one of the most complex and subtle screenplays in a long time. Plus, shout out to Adam Driver for agreeing to play an absolute horrendous garbage excuse of a human being.
I know, right?
Holy, this is not a spoiler, but watching the movie, when we got to his version of events, I was like, oh man, he's gonna defend himself. But then he doesn't, and I'm like, well,
business,
And I'm like, well, court case over. He admitted it, right?
Yeah, they business at all.
All he did was try and justify it. I was like, wow. And and throughout the film, there's a frank earnestness and honesty to it, and the way it discusses gender politics and discrimination, and obviously, Jodie Comer's section is probably the best. It's the section that brings the first two bits home and makes everything work. But no, I absolutely adored The Last Duel. Number 3, another historical film, took me completely by surprise. I love this so much. Judas and the Black Messiah. I was taken aback.
Nice.
I was...
Nice.
I do not understand how a movie this this earnest, this blatantly blatantly condemns the powers that be so overtly, and very much makes it clear that the sympathies lie with the Black Panther, got made by a major studio. How I'm sitting there how that, we always talk about how, oh, we're never gonna get a movie about certain figures in history because they're too controversial. But I'm sitting here at Judas and the Black Messiah is a miracle. It's like a baby that overcomes any kind of difficult circumstances and becomes into this world beautiful. And I'm like, this movie has no reason to exist, especially not to be as radical and as bristle and as confrontational as it is. But it does, and the world is an absolute better place for it. And then moving on, my number 2, my second favorite film of the entire year is David Lowery's The Green Knight.
Nice.
I am a mythology and folklore obsessive. I collect. This year for Christmas, I got my wonderful partner got me a copy of Le Morte d'Arthur, and that is the kind of nerd I am, where that was one of my favorite Christmas presents. I read The Green Knight when I was a teenager. And Arthurian lore has always intrigued me. One of my favorite films of all time is Excalibur. But here comes David Lowery with The Green Knight. And I knew this was going to be weird. I knew some people were expecting some kind of actioner or something a little more conventional. I don't know why they were, but whatever. We went to see it in theaters, and there were people who came out of the theater grumbling about it and oh, whatever. And I was like, I'm so sorry that you are as boring as you are, that you could not appreciate this. It is such a great, surreal, it adapts the subject matter. Like, it's so difficult to adapt medieval literature because medieval literature is so idiosyncratic, and it's not structured the way we think of a good 3-act structure, because the 3-act structure as we think of it now is a very contemporary invention in the grand scheme of things. Medieval literature has a very weird pace to it, but David Lowery commits to that pace, and he commits to all of the weirdness that comes with like adapting adapting a piece of medieval literature, and the visuals are gorgeous. Like this man still shocks me because like I had no expectations of him. Like I hadn't really seen much of his other stuff, and then I saw his remake of Pete's Dragon, and I was like, this movie is better than it has any right to be. What the hell, man? And so I was eagerly awaiting The Green Knight, and then I saw it, and it's a masterpiece. And he's kind of fallen into the Robert Eggers camp of, listen, whatever you make, I'm there. I don't care what it is at this point. Like, whatever you make, I'm there. So, yeah, that weird Peter Pan adaptation he's doing for Disney, I'm very excited for. The Green Knight, number 2 favorite movie of the year. But then, of course, all the films I've seen this year, and I'm talking all of them. So, like, older films, new films, theatrical, streaming, DVD. My favorite film of the year is this celebration of so many things I love, from one of my from a filmmaker who gets me out of bed in the morning to go make stuff because he's just that inspirational to me, and easily the best comic book movie that came out this year by a county mile.
Right.
I am talking, of course, about James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
Nice.
The Suicide
Yeah.
Squad. So
I had my honorable mentions list, but I missed it. Like I slipped it through my list. I was like, did I mention Suicide Squad? I'm like, no. Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
But yeah.
I have been following this film ever since it was greenlit, and people were like, I don't know, Suicide Squad's crap. I don't know how a sequel's going to play out. And I'm like, listen, in Gunn we trust, all right?
Right.
Like, yeah, that man had his edgy origins, and even he has said that like his early days were a little like, whatever. But like, he has come so far as a filmmaker, and the Suicide Squad is him kind of at the mastery of his craft. Like, the Guardians films have a technical polish and I can't wait for Volume 3 is going to blow me away. Like, I cannot think of a Marvel movie I am more excited for, period, than Guardians Volume 3, because I'm really ready to see the concluding chapter to this trilogy he has been so carefully constructing. So Suicide Squad feels like this delightful side note in my kind of anticipation for Guardians, because he takes, and like a lot of people were like, oh man, it's going to be Guardians 2.0, but again, it isn't. He understands the original John Ostrander comics from the 80s, and I have the complete John Ostrander run of Suicide Squad in trade paperback, and they are all, there's a couple story arcs here and there that aren't like the best, but like John Ostrander does such a brilliant job with them, and like Gunn understands what makes it work, where you take these honestly disposable characters, and the trick is you make people care that you kill them off. You take utterly disposable, you take characters that the comics have decided are disposable, don't matter, and you make your audience care when you kill them. Like, not obviously spoilers, but like there are 2 deaths that like hit so hard in that movie. Like, and like one of them is fascinating because like I'll go back to this. This is one of those scenes I revisit so many times when I
Rick
think.
Flagger.
Yes. No. That is one of the most complex sequences I've seen in a blockbuster from a mainstream studio all year, because it's like it's a confrontation of ideals. It's so brilliant. It's especially like when, and like this is nationalism in general, but it is specifically American nationalism. It's like it's when nationalism goes up against critical patriotism, right? It's like when you love your country, but you're prepared to actually question it, and you know that it's in the country's best interests to call it out when it goes astray, versus blind obedience. And that conflict,
they nail it.
and they nail it so well. And like,
Yeah.
especially since they set up both characters so well, and when they finally go to a head, it's the worst kind of fight because it's one of the most difficult fights to watch in the entire movie. And this is a movie with a lot of holy shit. By the way, hard R James Gunn has still got it.
Yeah.
Like hard R.
Oh yeah.
Gunn still knows how to do hard R. Like, I was not expecting a movie with Starro the Conqueror to remind me of a David Cronenberg movie, but here we fucking are. Like, there's like it's a movie that's still got that gruesome touch of something like Super or Slither, but it does it with But it creates that violent contrast because and this is comic book characters at their most comic book, right? Like, these are like comic book characters at their most comic book, and like, we're not trying to make them realistic or grounded. No. Javelin is wearing a blue and yellow suit and has a big javelin over his shoulder. Like, and then you have that, and you juxtapose that with the violence and everything else. And there's so many ideas in play. Every character is so richly and affectionately rendered. The movie is just like as a war film, as the sequel, as the succession to something like Kelly's Heroes or Dirty Dozen or the original Inglourious Bastards, it works. As a comic book movie, it pushes so much against the walls of the genre until they buckle a little bit, and I think honestly better for it. But no, I saw it in theaters, I saw it at home, I think twice. I need a physical copy as soon as possible. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad was my favorite film that I saw or that came out in 2021.
All right, nice. So last but not least, moi and my top 10, right? Number 10, Pig. Nicolas Cage came through with a superb performance here. It was a rather unconventional story. Yeah, that pig is so goddamn cute. But they really touch on grief in a way that I did not expect to. And the film could have gone in, the John Wick route. Oh, you kill my pet, I'm gonna kill you, or you kidnap my pet, I'm gonna kill you thing. But no, you just really see how detached Nicolas Cage's character is from the world. And then when you learn more about this character and why he's the way he is, though, it is just a gut punch to end, especially that ending. Wow. Number 9, I have to give it to In the Heights. One of the best musicals I've seen all year, though. It was just so vibrant, so exciting, so engaging, though. Just brilliant.
It's a shame I didn't see Spielberg's musical, this year now.
Why are you jumping the gun for? I'm gonna get to that.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to that.
All right, okay. I'll quietly go mute myself and shut up.
No. I'm kidding. You're good button, right? Whatever. Yeah. In the Heights, though, this came like, I believe, like where where quarantine itself and just being home and having to work from home was getting to my brain. I couldn't deal with it anymore. And then this movie came and I just forgot about that shit for like 2.5 hours roughly. I just had a blast with this one, right? Number 8, I have to give to The Suicide Squad. Yes, CC, this is a great movie. This is easily the best comic book movie we've gotten this year, and from Warner. It's from DC, and it's also a sequel to a film that a lot of people just try to, push underneath their couches. Like, oh, that David Ayer film did not exist. Sorry, no, it didn't. It won an Oscar, did it? No. Okay, shut it door, right? Yeah, but in terms of what it did do, and it was just James Gunn just being himself, being experimental, taking risks, bold risks as well too. I know, and for me though, like I would say probably half or 3/4 of it I did not see coming. I just went and I was like, oh my god, he did this. Oh my god, he did that. Wow, he did this. That stuff with Red Flag. Wow, he did that. Okay, Peacemaker. Wow, okay, and he just kept going. I love that, right? Number 7, we have The Harder They Fall, boy. This was just a blast from start to finish. Everybody just came through. It revitalized the Western genre, similar to like what Tarantino did years earlier with Django Unchained.
Yeah. Now, it's a real shame that they didn't pump the soundtrack ahead of time and hype it more, man.
I know, boy.
Yeah, but it was still a real hard. I really enjoyed it. More think about this work,
And this was on Netflix. I would have loved to see this on the big screen, man. I would have loved to.
Yeah, for real,
whatever, right?
Yeah.
Number 6, we have The Mitchells versus the Machines. This is easily the best animated film I've seen this year, though. This brought a smile to my face when I saw it. I remember watching it, and it was just all rainy. And this was right after, our Prime Minister Keith Rowley gave us one of those speeches about, COVID and all that kind of stuff. I was like, wow, well, can something lift me up, though? And then I watched this movie. I just had this smile on my face from start to end. Loved it, right?
Yeah.
Number 5, I have to give to The Green Knight, boy. This was a film that I was hyped for ever since that teaser dropped. Still one of the best teasers I've seen. And then the trailer dropped same day when Venom Let There Be Carnage came out. I was like, yeah, this trailer is way better, right? But this movie was just so unconventional and so weird. It was artsy in the right ways. I love how it just challenged viewers and whatnot. I know some people walk out of this like, this shit makes no sense. This is weird. This is pretentious. But no, this is... And Well Love in general, though, is like just telling a story that is already hard to tell with a character that you're not really supposed to like, but in a way you kind of get why he is the way he is as well too, and just so gorgeously shot, so well filmed, and just top notch production from beginning to end, man. Love this movie, right? And number 4, Ricardo, is Steven Spielberg's West Side Story. Yes, I was so fortunate to see this on the final day that it was in Caribbean Cinemas 8. This is the cinema that I go to. It's the closest one I go to. And yeah, boy, Steven Spielberg just proves once again why he is one of the greatest directors in film history, man. His second remake, because I know he did War of the Worlds before, but this one was, yes, it was a love letter, and not just a remake, but just a love letter and a tribute to one of his all-time favorite films, right? And a dedication to his father as well too. Everything was just superb from top to bottom. Just seeing your favorite songs being remade and just remastered, so to speak, was just excellent in my opinion. And I would say we could argue that the first one is a masterpiece and all that, and it is, but this one is right up there, man. This is one of the best remakes and one of the best musicals ever made in my opinion, right? Number 3, a movie that is guaranteed to win a bunch of Oscars next year, calling this one time Jane Campion's The Power of the Dog. Wow, this was just superb, boy, superb. Benedict Cumberbatch needs to get an Oscar nom for this one for sure. Jane Campion, if she wins Best Director, I'll be so happy for this.
Nice.
It was just so well made, so well written. And, it's just all these layers, especially when it comes to, sexuality and, just the machismo that comes, with the Western hero or anti-hero, so to speak, right? How this film touches on it was just excellent in my opinion. Number 2, easily the best experience I've had in a theater, to the point that I saw this film twice in Movietown in Trinidad and in IMAX. Dune Part 1. Yes.
Nice.
This just blew my mind from the word go. I just love Denis Villeneuve's creative decision to say, I'm going to make this a 2-parter. I'm not going to try the David Lynch thing and try to compress everything into one movie and suck. No, I'm going to tell the story the way I could tell it. And it was just superb from top to bottom. The production design, the music, oh my God, the music, the cinematography. The acting, I mean, I'm not going to put the acting on some kind of high pedestal, but it was totally serviceable in terms of the story being told. And yeah, I'm excited as hell for Dune Part 2, right? Now, number 1, after Let This Breathe for a minute, right? So let's get a little personal here. So as you guys may know, or you're listening, may or may not have known, my mom actually passed away this year in June, right? And right afterwards, when she passed away, this film came out, right? I saw it, I loved it. This was one of the first films that I covered with the rebranding of BBB Radio. And I covered it also, slight spoiler, with an album which turns out to be my favorite album of the year, right? And it's so similar, it's baffling, right? But anyway, I was lucky enough to rewatch this film with my dad, though. Because my dad not really into movies that such, so I have to kind of drag him to show him films. I'm actually fortunate enough to introduce him to old films, because you normally think your parents supposed to teach you about old films, but I teach my dad about old films, right? And I showed him this, and I mean, if it's one memory I could take away from this year, is being able to watch this with him, man, and just seeing this right off the bat. Not only is this the best documentary of 2021, it is, in my opinion, the best movie of 2021. It is the best musical documentary by far this year. Of course, I am talking about Summer of Soul, or When the
Nice.
Revolution Could Not
There
Be
you go.
Televised.
Nice one. Yeah.
Questlove of the legendary Roots crew came in and shut shit down with this. Oh my God. Film restoration. I am a huge fan of this, and he was able to take all this footage. Basically, it's this festival, this music festival that took place in Harlem in the summer of 1969, roughly around the same time when Woodstock was big, right, and was happening as well too. And this, for reasons, this was just kind of locked up. It was just kind of forgotten, and people over the few decades forgot that it even happened. And Questlove was like, no, I'm gonna turn this into a film. I'm gonna get people who not only were on stage, but also people who attended the festival as well too. I'm gonna present this to the world, Trent. And I was just in awe of this movie from beginning to end. The performances, oh my God, just OGs. Stevie Wonder, the Mavis Staples, and the Staple Singers. Fifth Dimension, Mahalia Jackson and Mavis Staples themselves. The two of them having just a fantastic duo in the form of duet basically. Sorry, in the form of "Take My Hand, Precious Lord." What I loved about this movie here is that it could have just easily been, hey, this is a festival. And these are the people that were there, and this is why the festival was awesome, because they had all these singers here. But no, they really showed you how, just the political climate of 1969, you know what I mean? Especially with, race, and, this is coming right after the murders of both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, right? And this particular performance with Take My Hand, Precious Lord was a reflection of how, Black America felt after, Martin Luther King died, right? And it is... Wow, it is so brilliant, boy. It's close to tear-inducing in my opinion. It is just such a powerful performance, right? But yeah, I just loved how Questlove just took us into that era. So it's not just about the music, but it's about the times that they were shaped in, right? And just the power of soul music itself being a reflection of those times, right? If you're a music aficionado, if you're a film restoration aficionado, if you're a historian, if you're just a history buff, you need to see this movie. I absolutely love this. This is easily the best film of the year. By all means, please watch Summer of Soul. And last thing I must say, though, if you can watch it with your parents, watch it with your parents. Trust me, because I mean, it's not gonna be for everyone, but I know, a lot of you guys, you probably had parents who brought you up on this type of music, brought you up on the Motown sound, brought you up on Stevie Wonder. You know what I mean? So just seeing that with my dad, and it's unfortunate that I could not see this with my mom, because I easily would have shown her this in a heartbeat. But please watch this with your parents, right? It's brilliant. And last thing, sorry. I remember my review, I was giving it a 4.5 out of 5. I actually gave this one last view a couple days ago. Yeah, this is a 5 out of 5. This is a masterpiece. This is one of the greatest musical documentaries of this or any generation, man. That's all I have to say. And yes, those were our picks now. Well, basically, this was our run through of the best and the worst of 2021. So please feel free to share your picks for best TV shows, worst movies, best movies, and all that jazz, right? And also best albums as well too, right? So feel free to share those, right? So before we go, CC, where can people find you online?
People can find me as CC_the_Martian on Letterboxd. I actually have on Letterboxd my full list of all 95 of my favorite films that I saw this year, 10 out of 10s. Every 10 out of 10 I gave this year, all comes to 95, is on my Letterboxd, and that's CC_the_Martian. And that's the same username for my YouTube page, where I have my short films up, my Twitter, my Instagram, my Spotify, if you ever want to just kind of look at some of the deranged music playlists I'm always putting together on there. And that's just regular CC Lilford on Facebook. And I think that's everything. Yes.
All right, Tracy, where can we find you online?
You can find me on Instagram as We Are Tracy, one word, We Are Tracy. And then pretty much everywhere, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Tracy J. Hutchings.
All right, Ricardo, where can we find you online?
Passat RDDY, that's at Armedi on Twitter, and type in Ricardo Medina on Facebook.
All right, and to the description of this podcast here, you will find a Linktree link. Once you click on it, you will see basically links to my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my Facebook account. Right, so on that Facebook, for the BBB Radio account, basically, you will find excerpts from the episodes that we've done of BBB Radio and retrospect reviews, and of course, BS Beats and Bailey. So y'all. Thanks so much for listening. Tracy, CC, Ricardo, thanks so much for coming through. And in general, guys, I mean, thanks so much for just coming back to the fold as far as me doing this podcasting goes, man. This year was rough on me in particular. I know it's really same, for you guys in various ways as well too. But I am just glad personally that I was just able to just go back into something that I'm really passionate about, this podcasting thing. And it's not just about me talking and griping about films, but being able to talk amongst, like-minded individuals like you guys as well too. Learning about films, learning about, different perspectives and ways to look at films and the world and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, thank you guys for coming through, man. I mean that in the bottom of my heart. And
Anytime.
to those listening as well too, I mean, thank you so much. If you haven't checked out the stuff that I've done over the past 6 months, please do. And of course, the BSB to Billy stuff that I did at the beginning of the year as well. But yeah, man, I mean, we actually made it, right? Not just the end of 2021, but the end of the first season of BBB Radio. Sorry, and here's hoping that we get more seasons to go. I have a cutoff point, but who knows? I could see this going way beyond, because I want to do live things. But I could see, as this outlet that I could just continue to come in and just talk about stuff that interests me, right? And
keep it going like a CW show forever and ever and ever.
6 seasons in a movie, right?
Six seasons in a movie, right? But we passed that, but we could get we could get the movie.
Rick and Matthew. Rick and Matthew, 100 years. Rick and Matthew. Rick and Matthew, 100 years.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, I hope I'm just hoping the same to you guys. In terms of 2022, just being able to just pursue your dreams and just accomplish things. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, it had the recent bad news like Desmond Tutu dying and stuff like that.
Yes. R.I.P. Desmond Tutu, by the way.
Yeah, but you have good news like Ghislaine Maxwell getting guilty. So it's like
I just saw that.
Yeah,
she has been sentenced or whatever.
Yeah.
So good things, man. So I'm looking forward to even more good things in 2022. Right. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. So once again, guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whenever you listen to this. This was Matthew Bailey and Ricardo Medina. Thanks for coming through yet again, man.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Tracy louder.
Tracy Hutchings, again, thanks for coming through, man.
Anytime. Peace and goodwill and all that good stuff.
Yes. And CC, thanks for coming through, man.
You're welcome. And for all of you at home, if you are out in space and you find a mysterious life form that looks like a starfish, leave it alone.
Please. That's a starfish from space. You're like, what? Right? And this has been the season finale season 1 finale, I should say, of BBB Radio. So until the next one, take care. Hope you guys had a happy holiday. Season greetings. Happy New Year. All the best for 2022. Yeah. Peace.
Oh yeah, that's a louder.